Welcome to Exeter. This cathedral city is best known for its Roman ruins, medieval architecture, and is a UNESCO City of Literature. Capital of Devon and home to around 130,000 residents. In its heyday, which was between the 1600s and 1700s, Exeter was one of the most important cities in England. In today's travel guide, we're going to show you its top attractions and hidden gems. We're starting off our day at Drake's, which has to be the best independent coffee shop in Exeter. They serve up all kinds of breakfast foods as well as hot drinks and cold drinks. Now, the building itself is also very unique as you have to walk down a little corridor in order to reach the entrance. The most grandiose building in the city is undoubtedly Exeter Cathedral, which is dedicated to St Peter. It was completed in around 1400 and is most notable because it has the longest uninterrupted stone vaulting from the medieval period in the whole world. So let's go in and see what else the cathedral has to offer. This stunning Gothic building is definitely best seen on a sunny day when the bright light reveals all of the intricate details housed within. There are so many interesting facets of history in this building, and one of my favourites has to be underneath the astronomical clock. It's this door, which actually has a cat flap in it, and in the past the bishop would have let his cat in here so that the cat could take care of all the mice in the church. Normally, you have to pay to visit the cathedral. However, as a way of raising funds to keep the church maintained, the cathedral often puts on events, and during these times, such as during setup, like today, the cathedral is open by donation only, and so you can go in and have a look. One of my personal favourite aspects of going inside is seeing many of the carvings, including the tomb of the Tudor couple. It's really well preserved. One thing that you'll often find on this side of English churches and also inside is that many of the saints and other carvings have been defaced. This actually dates back to Henry VIII when he split from the Catholic Church, and it was a sign of the rejection of Catholic ideals. Exeter Cathedral Green is the beating heart of the city, and this is where many locals come to hang out on their lunch break. This is also the site of one of the greatest Roman bathhouses in England. It was built around 60 Common Era, but was controversially covered up after it was rediscovered in 1971 due to a lack of funding. It's said that this complex would have been as important in the Roman era as Bath. There are a few highlights of the green that you don't want to miss, so I'm going to run through them now. The Devon and Exeter Institution is a private library that was founded in 1813. It also happens to be the first recorded instance of a female professional librarian. This is number 10, and it's one of the most ornate doors in Exeter. It dates all the way back to the 1600s, though the building itself actually dates back earlier to the 1400s. Members of the clergy have lived here for centuries, and if you look, the door is actually very short. There's also another legend associated with the door in that J.K. Rowling actually attended Exeter University, and it said that this inspired the door to the Room of Requirements. The coat of arms above the door belongs to Bishop Cotton, and this is the same bishop that allowed his cats to roam around the cathedral. With the exception of buses, Exeter High Street is predominantly pedestrianised. It's mainly big brand names here, but there are a few buildings of note.
This is the Exeter City Guildhall. There's been a Guildhall on this site from at least 1160, but this building dates from 1330. It has been altered a lot over the years. It's a multifunction building, but the council believes it's the oldest continuous use civic building in England and is still used by the City Council for its meetings every few months.
And then today, can you get married here, or are weddings in a different place?
So this building is open for public use. You can hire it for activities, for conferences, for meetings. You can get married here. You can have a drinks reception here. And the building is one which we encourage to be used by everybody who lives in or around Exeter and Devon.
And you're open every day. Can we just come in and visit?
The building is normally open Monday to Friday and Saturday mornings, except when there are some activities taking place.
Well, thank you. Blink and you might miss it. This is Parliament Street and it's the narrowest street in Exeter. It's just 64 centimetres wide at its narrowest point. One of my favourite elements of the High Street has to be St Stephen's Bow. Now this is attached to the Church of St Stephen's, which is a church that was first mentioned in the Domesday Book and has a Saxon crypt. Wander through St Stephen's Bow and you'll reach Princesshay. This is a completely pedestrianised shopping centre, and right now we're in St Catherine's Chapel. This chapel is completely in ruins, and the interesting thing here is that there are all these panels where you can see findings that were found when they did excavation of the chapel a few decades ago. In the Middle Ages, Exeter would have been completely fortified, so much so that it ended up being an Anglo-Saxon stronghold against the Normans. Exeter only fell into Norman rule after an intense siege lasted over 2 weeks in 1068. After that, William the Conqueror said no more, and he built a castle the likes of which Exeter had never seen before. We're in Rougemont Gardens, and this is the Rougemont Gatehouse. You see, the castle is sometimes referred to as Rougemont Castle because the colour of the stone was obviously red. Exeter is a city of many firsts and lasts, and this is actually the last place in England where people were tried and executed for witchcraft. They were tried right here in the city centre and then executed at Heathertree. One of the best things about visiting Exeter is all of these little lanes with independent boutiques, and we're going to go to one of the most famous of them now. Gandy Street is a little street that time forgot. There's lots of independent shops here, and if you want to pick up a local souvenir, I really recommend heading into Make a Mark. And right at the end of the street, you'll get to our next destination, RAMM. If you're interested in learning more about the history of Exeter, then you can head inside the Royal Albert Memorial Museum, which is completely free, though donations are always appreciated. This stunning Victorian building is sat over several floors and was opened in 1868 as the Devon and Exeter Albert Memorial Institution. This cultural gem not only tells the story of Exeter, but boasts a collection of over 1 million artefacts, meaning there's always something new to see and discover. Stepcote Hill is one of the oldest surviving streets here in Exeter. Its name comes from the Old English meaning steep enclosure, and from here you have an amazing view onto the green hills that Devon is so famous for. At the bottom of Stepcote Hill you'll find a few places of interest. The first is the house that moved. This Tudor building dates back to around 1450. In 1961, roadworks meant that nearby Edmund Street had to be cleared. The entire house was carefully lifted and moved on rails about 70 metres to its current location. Nearby, you'll find Book Cycle, which is a unique concept in that you can pay the price you want for the books for sale inside the shop. Many people say that the best of Devon can actually be found in the countryside, and so we've come an 8-minute train ride away from Exeter to Newton St Cyres to visit a very special pub, which is of course another British tradition worth exploring while you're in Devon.
Hi, my name is Will, and together with my wife Vicky, we are the proud owners of the Beer Engine here in Newton St Cyres. We've been here just over 10 years now in this wonderful pub in rural Devon, and we enjoy running our own independent business, and we raise our 2 kids here, and yeah, we think it's great. Yeah, go on then.
Actually, I was thinking about it, I didn't have any breakfast.
1983, pub was called the Barn Owl. It was just a community, village pub. Guy bought it, who was a teacher at Exeter College. His passion was real ale. He put all this brewery kit in that we can see behind us, these fermenting tanks here, and changed the name of the pub, and it became the Beer Engine. And now it's Devon's oldest working microbrewery. In 1983 it was established, so we're looking at over 40 years. This room that we're in now used to be a live music venue. Back in the 80s, they used to do live music here, so it was real ale, live music, all piling in off the train from Exeter. It was pretty unique. The layout was different, and they used to have through the core there, the bands used to set up, and the bar was in a different place.
And what I really like about this space is you can sit and have your drink and watch the beer being brewed.
You can hear it being made, you can see it. Ian, the chap in there brewing, he's been here since 1985, so he's getting the hang of it. And he's done about 4 million pints of beer that have been produced in this room here. And we serve, 5 ales all the time. We've got a portfolio of about 20. We supply a few local outlets, but it's mainly consumed here. So those are fermenting vessels in there where the beer sort of is kept and stored. And then you look through these windows here and you can just see the kit. Strength and flavour at the beginning, but the colour of your grain, the volume of it. And then here's where you do the flavour, where you would have your hops. And then in there is where the yeast does its work. So this now, judging the temperature, was brewed a couple of days ago. So you can see this is fermenting. So this is a live product on the top of it. So we use a live yeast culture that we keep and maintain. Ours is about 2.5 years old, and we keep regenerating it. We pitch this on the top, and you can see that it's working. So there's these little folds in here, and you can see some of the bubbles expanding. So that is fermenting as we speak now. And in a few days' time, so you notice that one was high, quite frothy, like a bubble bath. This one looks like a bath that a teenager's been in. It's sort of...
Here's one I made earlier.
Exactly. So you can see it's dropped around the edge. The yeast is a lot thicker, and the smell is completely different.
It looks a bit like bread dough.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of got this now taken on the smell. It's taken on a sort of more complete nose to it rather than just overly fragrant to begin with. So a lot of places use dried yeast, which ferments at the bottom, so you don't get to see the top. But this is pretty old school way of doing it. And it works because it's tasty.
It's a living piece of history.
It is a living piece of history. And we've brewed over 5,000 times, and this, all it's had to do is just go in and out and read the thing. And then you take the correlating number, and then it will tell you how many litres you have in your tank. But this is the original one. I think it's the only original thing left. By the time you've taken everything out, it's about 800, 900 pints every time you brew, which is why there are barrels everywhere, which he's about to fill up. So he literally fills them up out there and then rolls them through into another cold storage. And then the pipes will come up through the ceiling and to the upstairs bar.
You've got the most local beer in England.
Yeah, pretty much. It's about 12 feet it's got to go. So there's not much of a carbon footprint. We use British grain, West Country grain, British hops. And our yeast is natural live yeast that originated in Palmer's Brewery in Bridport. So it is about as local as it can get. And Ian's from the village as well. So even the man making it hasn't gone from far. Morning. Don't give me any of that. Hello. How are you?
Hi.
Don't be rude to people.
So we've got the balcony, as I suppose it is, this terrace here. So this is sort of a little bit more sheltered, and heaters and stuff, and off the pub. And then we've got the top terrace here. We have a grapevine here, and now it's the worst time of year because I get birds nesting in it because they're after the grapes. So they
Can you eat the grapes?
You can. They're pretty sour. Someone tried to press them a few years ago, but they didn't have much joy with it. But yeah, obviously in the summer so the sun comes over. So 1 o'clock the sun's there, it sets there, so you get the full sun across here. And then down here, I'll just show you as we're here, we have the downstairs bit. So it sits about 100 people down here, and when we have band nights, they band and play at that end. And our next one is, we've got one at the end of the month, breast cancer, raising money for that for my wife. And yeah, stuff, pool table and various things and functions and birthday do's, and it's just wicked space. It really is. It's really cool.
Thank you so much for showing us around. How can people come visit?
Bus, walking, cycling, or the train. So we're on the Barnstable-Oakhampton line. It's 8 minutes from Exeter St David's, and you get here. Nice and easy. Request stop, so it's fun. You have to tell the conductor you want to get off, and you have to wave for the train. We're open 7 days a week for drink, and we do food Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all day. Come and see us.
Perfect. See you soon.
Pleasure. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Exeter is not only a great base from which to explore the green rolling hills that Devon is so famous for, but its proximity to the sea means that the nearby towns and villages give a great view of life on the seaside. We've come to Topsham, which is on the River Exe estuary, and here you can see lots of seabirds. The town itself is also quite delightful, as there are lots of independent shops and boutiques. While there are a few eateries in town, we had lunch at a delightful Cosy Café by the name of Circle. They serve up hot drinks, pastries, and even sell a number of plants as well as locally produced trinkets and gifts. In 1300, Topsham was granted the royal charter status of a town by Edward I. From then on, it was used as Exeter's official port. This is where goods were traded to and from Europe. Now we're going to go and head to the estuary marshes, where we'll hopefully see some more seabirds. We just got to this walkway known as the Goat Walk. This is a lovely walk through the marshlands, so hopefully we'll see some wildlife. If you're particularly interested in seeing some local birds, you can actually come to the RSPB Bowling Green Marsh Lookout. This is a hideout where you can open the windows and have a look at the birds. Depending on when you come, there might even be a volunteer here who will help you identify the birds you can see. Otherwise, it's open 24/7. We even managed to spot a kingfisher, but unfortunately, we didn't manage to capture it on camera. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more UK travel content. See you next week.